Welcome back. So a lot of you have been enjoying the long form content recently, and so I figured I'd put out another one. So surprise, surprise, fair warning, this is going to be a longer video. Sit back, relax, throw the headphones in, go back to work, whatever it is you do, and hopefully we learn a little something. I am going to do my best to explain what the evolution in this hobby looks like or should look like for you. When you start out in the first 1 to 2 years, and the 3 to 5 year period, and then maybe like the 5+ year period where things really get fun. Because, in the beginning, it can be a lot more rocky, a lot more ups and downs, a lot more of that roller coaster type feel. You're making mistakes, but you're also really excited because everything's fresh and new. And, eventually you get to the point where you've been in the hobby a long time and you go through a lot less of those emotional roller coasters and, you still have some excitement. It's not probably as much as the excitement was when you were new, but you're doing a lot better overall because you know what to expect, you know what you're doing, and you're not worrying too much about all the news cycles and all the content and all the, gossip out there what people talk about because you've seen it so many times it doesn't bother you. And so I'm going to do my best to kind of talk through that whole evolution and see if it makes sense to some people and helps people out there, as whatever part of the journey you're on, because I think it will. So let's go ahead and start out with starting out in the hobby. This is by far the hardest part of your entire collectible journey. The biggest reason is because the collectibles market is a hard market to navigate. And people have been in the hobby a long time, they're like, Alex, what are you talking about? You gotta think about this. If you buy like a video game, pretty easy to find out a standard market price, right? You log on, Amazon, you go up to Target or Walmart, you go to GameStop. Pretty simple to find out, okay, this video game costs $60, right? Now maybe I can wait for a coupon, wait for a sale, whatever it may be, but it's gonna cost you about $60. If I get anything under that, it's great, right? Collectibles aren't like that, right? Because you go to your local card shop and, some local card shops price things well, some, price things really high, and so you're gonna get a warped view of reality there. You're going to go to Walmart or Target and see, full price retail Pokemon and think, okay, this is what Pokemon costs. But then you're going to log on to eBay and maybe if you find TCG Player, a lot of people don't even find TCG Player. And you're going to log on to eBay and you're going to say, wait, what the heck? It's all going cheaper on here. Are these even legitimate? Are these fake? Should I trust these sellers? Well, they have thousands of feedback and they're 100% positive rated. I mean, it's got to be real. Why is it so much cheaper than the retail stores? And so you're starting to figure that out, and then, get a little deeper, and you're researching the single cards, and it's all new to you, remember, this is all new, and you're seeing all these different cards from all these different sets, and different colors, and rainbow patterns, and gold, and these are full arts, and why is this one worth more than this, when this one's supposed to be more rare than that one? None of this makes any sense. And, maybe you've been in the hobby, this is your first time in the hobby, or maybe you were in the hobby back during, the 1999 release like I was, and all you remember is, oh yeah, I remember Charizard Hollow, and then, the rest are commons, uncommons, and it's a whole lot different now, and it's a lot harder to navigate, and then you're worried about fake stuff. It's very hard, right? It takes a good amount of time to learn all of that, and I don't think there's a way to do it without experience. I don't think, you can listen to me or you can listen to other YouTubers and it can help, but I don't think it can really do you enough other than kind of navigating through it and trying to do all the research you can, asking questions when you can, asking questions to people like me, or asking questions where, in Discord groups or, Facebook groups where a lot of people can give you a lot of feedback. And, usually when a ton of people in the hobby, I'll give you, a similar answer to something. When it's not like an opinion related question, when it's like an actual factual related question and everyone can kind of give you the same answer, usually, it's okay to trust that. I mean, obviously not all the time, but usually people are going to be pretty honest with you. And, it just takes time to kind of go through that process, right? And I don't think there's any substitute for it, but experience. And this is a time in the hobby where you're going to make mistakes. Just get over it, right? Suck it up. You're going to make mistakes. I've made mistakes, right? I've bought items that I've overpaid for because I didn't, shop around correctly. I've undersold things where I should have listed them differently because I didn't realize it was, this version of a card or whatever it may be, or how rare or scarce it was. And you're just going to go through those types of things in the hobby. Now, luckily, if you're buying from legitimate platforms, like an eBay or something, and you get a fake card, eBay will let you return it. You will get your money back. You'll go through a little bit of headache dealing with it, but you will get your money back. If you're going through some of these, different platforms, you're trying to make deals on Discords or Instagrams or Facebook groups, and you're doing these like friends and family transaction or crypto transactions, well, yeah, you might lose some money, you might get caught, you might get a fake card, you might not be able to return it. So be careful there. I would say use legitimate platforms, eBay, TCG Player. At bare minimum, use goods and services when you get started out. If you're really worried about stuff, you don't trust the people, you don't know them, and you're not 100% sure on the items. But other than that, it just takes a little time when you're starting out. Now, when you're new, also, this is also the time in the hobby where it's going to take one of two things. It's going to take the largest amount of influx of new capital, meaning your already earned income that you already made from your job, whatever you're doing, being put into the hobby, or the most amount of effort that you're probably ever going to have to put in the hobby because you don't have anything built up. You have no collection, you have no investment, and so everything has to come from buying and selling and flipping and making a profit to then put those profits into things you actually want to collect or invest in. And so depending on your financial situation, you might have a ton of money sitting around that you can really start to influx large amounts of capital and get your positions built up early. Or if you don't have a lot of money, you're going to have to do a ton of work flipping because you just don't have anything that's been gaining value that you can sell for profit and then roll that into new stuff. And so the beginning of the hobby is the hardest part. And this is one of the reasons why so many fall off. And I talked about in another video, that first 12 to 24 months. Because the excitement, the newness, that'll keep you going for a certain amount of time, right? Like, as long as you're staying excited and everything's new and you're having fun, even though you made some mistakes here or there, lost some money here or there, you're still having a good time. You're just like, happy to be involved in this new community. You're in these new groups, watching these new channels. You're feeling like you're a part of something, right? And so that'll keep you going for a certain amount of time. And usually that time is, around a year or so. And after that, you really start to question things like, man, am I spending too much time doing this? Am I putting too much money into this? Like, what, I need to do this around the house. The car does kind of need repaired. I've been kind of getting along with it. I need to do this, need to do that. My wife wants to take a vacation this year, and I've been putting a lot of money into this. I don't think we'll be able to take the vacation that we want to take if we keep doing this. Whatever it may be, all these thoughts going around your head, they start swirling, and you're starting to think about all the other things you could be doing with your money. Not only that, you start second guessing if you're investing in the stuff and not just collecting. You start second guessing, well, is this really that good of an investment? Should I just sell it all, put it back in the S&P or the stock market? Or should I get rental houses? I hear a lot of online gurus talking about rental income. Should I be smarter with this money? And that's why a lot of people drop off in that 12 to 24 month period. The other reason is sealed product especially takes time to grow. You can see a lot of spike ups in single cards and PSA slabs, things like that in short runs. And then some boxes will spike in the short run, right? Like we have Twilight Masquerade right now. We got Paldea Evolved. But a lot of the other boxes, it's slow growth, right? And so not a lot usually happens in the first 1 to 2 years, or maybe something you were doing well, and then, you were in the hobby for 18 months, and all of a sudden, boom, Twilight Masquerade gets a reprint. Boom, Paldea gets a boom, 151 gets a reprint. And it sets you back, back to what you started at. Or maybe you're down now, and it really just it hurts your ego, right? And it hurts that, anytime you lose money, anytime you were ahead and you came back down, it's like being at the casino, you're up $100, then you lose a bet, now you're back to even. It doesn't sit well. And when that usually starts to happen in that 1 to 2 year period, people start going through that, and it really discourages them. And this is why a lot of people quit in that time. And guys, this isn't, exclusive to Pokemon. People are like this all throughout life. Whenever things get a little difficult, usually at, first signs of struggle, the first signs of failure and things like that, a lot of people give up on a lot of things in life, right? It's why the average, person that starts working out or going to the gym fails so early. It's why the person who starts their first diet fails so early. It's why most all New Year's resolutions are already finished by February, right? It's because people have a hard time sticking to something if they don't see instant results. And kind of the first signs of adversity, they really shut down. And but that's a story for a whole other day. But that's one of the reasons why the first, I would say, 0 to 2 years of the hobby is so crucial to have a long-term plan, understand what your goals are, set restraints in place, right? Don't overdo it in terms of finance, don't overdo it in terms of time, right? I understand when you're excited, it's easy to really pour yourself into stuff. I know, obviously we've all been through that times, or most of us at least, where the new video game came out you've been waiting for, and you literally spent 15 hours playing it, and the first day you got it, and it's like your whole life gets out of whack because you got to play this game. And so the same thing can happen with Pokemon and collecting. You're putting so much time into research and all these groups and watching all this content and searching for all these different prices and shopping around and really learning the hobby because you're thirsty for it, right? And so what I would say is try to keep things balanced and try to keep that the idea of what your plans are with your collection, with your investment, that can be continued for the long run and isn't such a roller coaster up and then a roller coaster down to where you're like super excited and completely depressed and then back to excited and back to depressed. And so that's the first couple of years. Now, if you're lucky enough to make it through that first couple of years, in my opinion, things start to get more fun now. Things start to get really fun after you make it through past that second year, I would say up to like year 5. And the reason for that is your investments start paying off usually that time. In the year 2 to 5 is when the reprints stop coming. It's when the supply starts to shrink. And it's when you'll start to see some of the most drastic moves sometimes on a lot of the sets that you invested in. Not only that, maybe some of your cards and your PSA slabs start doing well as well. You've gained a lot of experience in the hobby, so maybe you've tried out a bunch of different avenues at this time. You've finally found the things that work that you enjoy, so you're no longer throwing a bunch of darts at a board trying to just find something that you enjoy in the hobby. Do I like buying and selling? Do I like investing? Do I like singles? Do I like slabs? Do I like sealed? Do I like bulk? What do I like? Do I like building binder collections? And usually by this time you kind of have that under control. You kind of have an idea of what kind of collection or investment you want to go after, what you have. And so you really get to hone in and become better at that thing or those few things that you really enjoy. And that's where you can focus all your time, all your money, all your attention on. And that's when you usually see the most growth, I would say, in that 2 to 5 year period. Not just like in your investment, but in yourself, like in yourself as a TCG hobbyist or investor, collector, whatever it may be. And so the cool part about that is you start seeing this investment growth, right? And these boxes that you paid, $80, $90, $100 for are now worth $150, $170, $200, maybe $200 plus, $300. And now you have a lot of unrealized gains or net worth in the hobby that you didn't put into it, right? I mean, when people look at people's shelves, that's the biggest issue with, I would say, content creators is, I mean, myself included, I'm part of the problem, is you'll see a lot of these cool items, right? Like you'll look at this team up box, or you look at this One Piece box down here, some of these other, Evolving Skies, and a lot of these expensive items. And I don't even have that expensive of items. Like there's people out there that have way more expensive items than I do. But you look at these things and you're just like, oh man, I really want to have that too, because, maybe I've been talking about it, other people have been talking about it. And you look it up and you're like, wow, this is $2,500. How does he afford that? He's so rich. I want to be rich like that. But what you don't realize is, well, I mean, for me, this team-up box, I bought it in a large collection. I sold off a lot of that collection and made profits on it, and really, I'm not in this box for that much money. Or, this One Piece box, I bought it released for just over $100, and now it's worth like $900 to $1,000. I would have never paid $900 to $1,000 for it, but, that's where it's at. And the same story goes for all this stuff, is you don't pay much for it, but then, the years go by, and now it's worth a lot of money. And so you have that decision to make. Do I continue to hold it because I like having my collection? Do I sell it off? Now I've got tons of money to spend in the hobby. I mean, because you have to think about that, right? This One Piece box, bought it a little over a year ago, right, for $100. So I only put $100, let's say $120 into the hobby, but now it's worth $1,000. I can go sell it for $1,000. Now I've got $1,000 to go spend in the hobby and widen out my investment or my collection. And then, 2 to 5 years down the road, all of those things rose. And now I can start sell off those and take all those profits and build even more. And so that's why you see this snowball effect of people's collections and investments growing larger and larger, and you feel more comfortable buying more, is because that snowball effect sets in and your net worth continues to grow in the hobby because you keep making more and more on your investments every single year. And this is another reason why you'll see, like myself, my orders will start to grow. Like when I buy a new product, how much I start investing in the sets. Whereas when I started out in the hobby, right, it was, a booster box of every set. And then it started to be, hey, I'm going to buy multiple booster boxes. You know what? I'm going to buy a case of every set. I'm going to buy a couple cases of every set. And then it starts to get in snowball, and now you're buying 10 and 20 cases of each set because you've got so much unrealized gains in the hobby, or you've taken a lot of realized gains, you've sold off a lot, and you've made enough in the hobby to where your risk level becomes so much lower, right? Just do simple math, right? Let's say you put, $10,000. That's a lot of money. That's a lot. Let's say you put like $1,000 of your own money into the hobby. And then, after 2 years, you bought some things that have done well, some haven't done well, some have done okay. And let's say, you're at $2,000. Well, now you sell off all that stuff if you want, and you can realize those gains, buy $2,000 now of new stuff. And it compounds. And every few years, right, that one turns into 2, then 2 to 4, 4 to 8, 8 to 16. And then maybe you'll have some take off, like Evolving Skies or a Team Up or something. There's One Piece. And all of a sudden now, maybe, that 16,000 turns into, 25,000. You're like, whoa, what's going on? And you build up this net worth in the hobby to where, you can start selling off some of it, keeping some, and buying more investments with like literally zero to low risk. Because, put it this way. If you bought Evolving Skies at $100, right? You bought a case of it. So you put $600 into Evolving Skies. Well, one box is worth $700 now. You can sell off one box, and every single thing you bought is 100% paid for, $0, zero cost basis, right? You're in the profit. Well, now you can say, you know what? I'm going to sell off 2 more of these. I'm going to take that $1,400, and I'm going to buy myself some more stuff. So now you've got $1,400 in new collectibles. You've still got 3 Evolving Skies boxes at zero cost basis to you, right? And as that happens more and more, well, now when these new sets come out, you're saying, how are these people buying 10 cases? That's like, what, $5,000, $6,000? Well, yeah, but they have $5,000, $6,000 plus in zero cost basis items behind them to where even if everything dropped in half, you're still okay. And that's what a lot of people don't realize is when a lot of these people have these giant collections, it's not because they're rich or they bought it all or they spent market price and everything. It's they built it over time, right? It grew for them over time. Or they bought out collections and they sold off 90% of that collection, made back all their money, and instead of taking a profit, they kept a few things for themselves. And they just kept keeping things. They kept doing the work, right? Buying and selling, but then kept, just keeping a few items out of each collection and putting it on their shelf and kind of having that long-term investment or long-term collection. And so that's usually what I would say happens in that 2 to 5 year range is you understand kind of what direction you want to go, what you enjoy in the hobby. You focus in a lot more on those directions, like on those things you really enjoy. Focus more of your time, more of your energy, more of your money. And you start to make more strategic plays, right? You start to, figure out what you want to sell off from your investment or collection and what you want to move that money into and what you want to kind of keep and let grow longer. And that's usually the time where I think if people can make it past that first 2 years, they usually end up staying, I would say, relatively long term, barring some crazy, life event comes up, have a kid, issue with the family, like divorce, money issues, things like that, economic, crisis, things like that, lose a job. Anything other than like those types of things, people usually stay in the hobby if they make it through that first 2 or 3 years, I would say. Now, getting past that 5 year mark, right? That's huge. If you get past the 5 year mark in this hobby and you've been diligent with your collecting and investing, you haven't just like flipped everything, you haven't taken every profit whenever it comes, get a $10 profit, I gotta take it. You haven't taken a lot of money out of the hobby. That's another problem we gotta talk about. Before we get into that, I wanna talk about that. Taking money out of the hobby. Now look, I'm not gonna tell anyone how to use their own finances, right? But if you're putting money into this, I always would assume that you have the disposable income to do so, right? The same way as you invest in a 401k and you're not looking to take the money out when you make a gain, right? Anyone who invested in their 401k in the past year, 3 years, 5 years, 10 years, you're up money, right? But you don't take money out of that 401k, right? You keep putting more in, you let the money you have in there grow. That's how I recommend, or I, treat my Pokemon collection is, as things grow, I may sell things, but it's only to put it into other items or to grow that investment long term. Until, you do want to sell, I guess, and take all the money out and use it for what you've, wanted to build wealth for. But taking money out of the hobby can really stunt the growth of your growth in the hobby. And what happens is that will end up leading to people quitting is, maybe they take money out And then, we do have a downturn, a bear market, and things do start to downturn. And so now the money they took out mixed with the rest of the stuff they have going down, they're starting to say, I knew I should have sold everything. Then they do sell everything, and they say, I'm not getting back in. I hit the top. I don't want to deal with that anymore. And sometimes that'll cause people to lose. But taking money out of the hobby every time something goes up, it won't allow you to grow as much as you really could. It won't allow that snowball effect, that compounding to happen. And what ends up happening is at certain points, people have to start putting more of their own money back in if they want certain sets, certain cards, because they don't have enough built up in the hobby anymore to be able to, make trades for the items they want or sell off some for profits to be able to buy those items. And so I'm not going to tell anyone what to do. Just be careful taking money out of the hobby for like regular day-to-day expenses or things. I would say if you need money for every day-to-day expenses, maybe don't be collecting or investing Pokemon at this time. Maybe wait until you can, have the disposable income not to need the money to be able to put in this. So that's kind of what I would say about that. But moving past the 5-year mark, right, this is when you really start to see that long-term growth really take effect and really start to kind of have that more long-term plan. This is when, all of the emotional BS really starts to fade away. All the, the news cycle content, all the people, debating over the new sets. Is this a good card? Is that a bad card? This set's going to be trash. This set's going to be great. The hype and the boom and the bust cycles and all that, all the BS. Once you're in the hobby for, I would say, at least 5 years or more, you really start to pay attention less and less to that. And you could say, I guess, maybe your excitement level. I could say my excitement level isn't what it was when I first got in. And so, but it's a good thing, right? You're not seeing all those emotional ups and downs. You're a lot more level all the time, right? Things don't perform as well. It's okay. Things perform better than you thought. That's great, right? It's like it doesn't, it doesn't have that like same effect where you're so excited when things go up and you're so depressed when things go down and you're worried about what everyone's saying and, well, these people are saying this bad thing about the set. I don't think I'm going to buy this set. Well, all these people are hyping this set up. I think I'm going to buy that set. And you're trying to be a set picker. And you're always worried about all the news and what people are thinking. And I would say once you reach that 5+ year mark, a lot of that goes away. So I would say a lot of the market noise starts to fade away, become a lot more quiet, and not affect you in any way. Okay? Other thing is, you've been through probably a couple growth cycles at this point, a couple different eras or set growth cycles where you've seen multiple of your products, gain value multiple times. Meaning, things like Sun and Moon, right? You've seen the initial rise in Sun and Moon up into the, $150, $200, $300 boxes, and then a secondary rise up into the, $400, $500, $600, $700 boxes, right? Kind of like Team Up went through its initial crazy rise in the 700s, then it went through another rise to 2,500. And so I think that's kind of what you go through at that 5+ year mark, is you start seeing multiple ups and downs, right? Multiple bull, multiple bear markets in the hobby, right? Kind of like Sword and Shield right now. People who've only been in the hobby for a couple of years, this is the first time they're seeing like their Sword and Shield investments go stagnant and actually come down. And it's a little scary, right? But, another 2-3 years, I predict, can't be 100% sure, obviously, I predict we'll go through another growth cycle in Sword and Shield. A lot of these boxes will be in the 200s and 300s. Evolving Skies will probably be at 1,000. And you'll kind of gain that wisdom and that experience and say, okay, this is just how these things go, right? When things kind of go to that, 1, 2, 3 year mark, they go out of print, kind of the hype, builds up a little bit. They're going to run up to that 150, 200, 250 plus range. And then maybe they cool off, go stagnant, maybe drop 10, 15, maybe 20% or something like that. Cool off for a while, and then they'll have another growth cycle, and, away it goes. And then, after they do reach that, I would say more established price of 4, 5, 6, 700, you can choose to sell, or you can choose to just hold because you like having your collection, you want that steady growth. A lot of those boxes do see steady growth of like 5, 10, 15% a year usually. And so you kind of realize a lot of those things because you've been in it and you've seen it, firsthand now with your own items. And it's really cool too because you've probably been through profit-taking cycles by then too, that 5, 6, 7 year mark where boxes have made it to your price points you've wanted to get to, right? When people always say, I'm holding for at least 3 to 5 years or 5 to 7 years, 5 to 10 years, these are some of the first times you're starting to take profits, which is, it's fun, right? And you're starting to say, you know what? I got a couple cases of Evolving Skies. I'm going to go ahead and sell those boxes. And, I paid $1,200 for those 2 cases, and now I'm going to sell them for $8,000. This feels really freaking good. This is awesome. Maybe I do want to take some money out of the hobby. Maybe I do want to go take a vacation with it. Maybe I do want to go buy some of those collection pieces that maybe aren't the greatest investments, but I've always wanted them in my collection. I'm going to go buy them because guess what? It's not my money. It's profit. I made it. And so, you start to go through that process, which becomes really fun. And also, it's kind of that time where, it comes to fruition, right? You've proven your thesis, right? And at that time, when you've finally proven this thing works, that's when you really get more confident. And I would say a lot of people, their investment buys start going up, right? The things they sell starts kind of decreasing a little bit. And this is why you see a lot of the people that have been in the hobby the longest okay holding through the ups and downs. They're not like, rushing to sell when things are up. They're not rushing to sell when things are down. It's because they've been through it now, and they understand this market. They understand the kind of the ups and downs and trends. And again, you get less emotional because, one, you've got money now that you've built in the hobby. You've taken profits. You've seen the ups and downs. You've seen the moves multiple times, and none of the other stuff really phases you anymore. And so that's one of the best times, I would say, if anyone can get through that hard first year and can kind of grow and figure out what they're trying to do in that 2 to 5 years and get to that 5+ year range. I think those are the people that probably leave the hobby the least. If you make it to 5+ years, I see very few of those people leaving the hobby because, here's the thing, guys. Even the worst sets, I did a video about it, right? I just did a video. Even the worst sets in the hobby, right? If you got things wrong, like terribly wrong, and you were in Steam Siege and Crimson and Vivid Voltage and Darkness Ablaze, over time, you still made money. That's the cool thing about sealed product. Over time, you still make money on these boxes. Even if it wasn't the most amount of money, you didn't outcompete the other investors, it doesn't matter because you have more money today than what you put in before. And a lot of the time, it's going to outcompete a lot of the other places you could have put that money. But the main thing is that this isn't a hobby that we've seen, decrease in value over long periods of time. Now, if you're doing a collection game, you got binders, you got singles and slabs and other more niche items. There are a lot more ups and downs, but that now. Those are a lot more risky, right? Higher risk, higher reward type thing, but also higher chance of losing. And you can take those risks. Again, this is another thing about being in the hobby longer. You can start taking higher risks because you've got a bunch of net worth now to back you up, right? I can start taking risks now where I take, $5,000 and $10,000 risks. And if I get it wrong and I lose, 30% of my money, no big deal. So what do I lose? $3,000? All right, well, I got, $3,000 sitting like right here on the shelf. And all this stuff's paid for, right? And so you can start taking those higher level of risks when in the beginning, taking a $3,000 risk on freaking cardboard? Are you crazy? Go tell like 100 people on the street you're going to put $3,000 into Pokemon cards. You will get laughed at. You will get ridiculed. Go to Wall Street, tell them that. They will laugh you out the freaking building like you're the biggest idiot in the world. But, again, you're going to be scared. You're not going to do that. Or you're going to enter a hobby and, if you're regular, middle class, whatever it is, and $3,000 is a lot of freaking money. It's still a lot of money to me. And I'm going to put it in these cards and just cross my fingers and hope for the best. It's crazy. It sounds ridiculous. But after you're doing it for 5 years and you've got maybe 5 figures, 6 figures built up in your collection, well, now it's just a small percentage. And you're just like, well, yeah, sure, I'll take that risk. No big deal. And so that's more of the fun that kind of happens the longer you've been in the hobby and the more you kind of build up those investment returns. And so that's kind of the stages of going through the hobby. And so wherever you're at during those stages, right? Understand everyone's been through it, right? Everyone's been new. Everyone's made mistakes, not knowing where to go, what to ask, what to buy, where to buy it, what price points. Everyone's been there. You're not alone. Unfortunately, a lot of it just takes experience. Myself, others in the hobby, we can help you to a certain extent, but a lot of it's just learning, right? And then, that 2 to 5 year range, again, everyone's been there. Everyone's felt, kind of figuring out what you want to be in because you see everyone doing all these different things. Everyone's successful in every different thing. Every different stage of this hobby, people are successful. And there's successful content creators, pack openers. There's successful business owners, successful sealed businesses, successful singles, successful slabs businesses, successful bulk businesses. There's successful card shops. There's successful like collectors out there, these long-term collectors, modern and vintage, Japanese and English. People are successful in every part of this industry. Okay? And so what it is, your idea needs to be, it's not about if I can, it's about what I want to do, what I enjoy, and if I want to put forth the effort to be successful and put in the time and have the right temperament, not get too emotional. And that's usually what happens in that 2 to 5 year range. Start to get a little more fun, right? You start, you want to see some profits on your investments, take some money. It starts being, a little more risk taking, a little less risky, because you know in the back of your head, well, if things start dropping or they really drop bad, I know I can sell X, Y, and Z, and I can have all the money I put in this hobby back. Or you can start taking all the money out that you did put in, and you can start free rolling using house's money, and then you move into 5+ years where you really stop paying attention to all the BS. You're locked in. You know what you want to do. You know what works. You're starting to see those bigger gains, bigger net worths, taking bigger risk, and it really gets fun. And you really start seeing, those bigger, more expensive items, more niche items, and really playing with some of that bigger money, even though it's not even yours. It's just money you made in the hobby. And to wrap all this up, that's what kind of gives me so much hope for this hobby is. It's not just people, kids growing up and then making incomes and bringing that income back to Pokemon. It's not just, people my age, younger, older, continuing to advance in their careers and make more money. Or, we get older and, our parents or grandparents die and leave us inheritances, and so we have that money to spend. It's not just that, right? It's the fact that as this stuff continues to grow in value, everyone who's in this hobby's net worth grows with it. Your hobby net worth grows, and so you have more and more money to spend on the newer stuff continuously, right? Now, we could say it's kind of a negative for the older stuff. Maybe it gets a little more illiquid. Yeah, maybe it does, but it continues to keep the newer stuff in the hobby churning and burning because there's so many positives pushing it forward, on top of Pokemon just marketing it and always pushing out new stuff and doing a good job as a company. And so that's what gives me kind of faith in the future. And again, along the way, it always makes sense to take profits when you can. You don't get caught with too much, be too illiquid and worry about that. But again, if you sell everything, you could miss out on things like Team Up, Evolving Skies, One Piece, things like that. So that's all I got today, guys. I hope the convo helped. Hope it kind of hit you wherever you're at in the hobby. If you're newer, kind of mid-range, or if you've been in the hobby a little longer and you kind of be like, yeah, Alex, I see what you're talking about. I know exactly what you mean. I've been here for it too. And subscribe to the channel if you're not yet. And as always, be back here in a new one soon. I'm out.